Hey everybody, and welcome to the Mystical Minute. I am actually going to try each day, now that we're in the period of Sefiras HaOmer, which I'm going to explain shortly, to actually post a short video every day, really super short hopefully, about the accomplishment of that particular day and a good practical exercise, some questions we can ask ourselves and specific areas of our lives that we can look at for each day of the Omer. So if you got sick of seeing my face on your newsfeed, just scroll on by. Okay, so we just came out of Pesach, and the whole idea of Pesach is that we capitalize on the power of humility to get past our ego, to get past the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves and the world around us and the people around us. To get past those in order to really start tapping into the real potential of our soul instead of the kind of false potentials of our ego. So now that we've done that, we're in the period of Sefiras HaOmer, which is literally the counting of the Omer. So when the Jews left Egypt, the whole point of leaving Egypt was again to go to receive the Torah on Har Sinai, on Mount Sinai. And we said that the receiving of the Torah was actually this extremely intense, intimate, mystical fusion between the individual standing at the mountain and the infinite. And so that's what we're moving toward with the holiday of Shavuos. So this intermediate period between Pesach and Shavuos is Sefiras HaOmer. So the Omer is actually a barley offering that was that was brought firstly in the desert and then eventually in the Holy Temple, the Beis HaMikdash, when the Jews settled in Israel. And why barley? Because barley was and kind of is still essentially animal food. And during this period between escaping the slavery of Egypt and of our own ego and having this intense period of divine fusion, there's a certain refinement that has to happen. Just because you escape from the cage doesn't mean you're actually ready yet to have this fusion with the divine. So what happens during this period? It's 49 days of the Omer. And what's happening during each of these days spiritually is that we're refining a different power of the soul. So each of our souls is structured in such a way that we have 3 elemental intellectual powers and then 7 elemental emotional powers. And it's those emotional powers because they're dominant in our animal selves, which is why the offering came from barley, which is animal food, because we're refining our animal natures in order to make it a vessel to receive the divine instead of being either overwhelmed by it or unable to sense it. So each of those 7 intellectual powers is also present in microcosm in the other 7. So there are actually 49 kind of microcosmic aspects of the Omer that we're refining at this point. So we're already in week 2. Actually, we're like 2.5 weeks into the Omer. So the second power of the soul, which is what we're refining this week, and we already missed the first week and a half. Whatever, it's divine providence. Next year, God willing, we'll do the first power of the soul, which is Chesed. This week is Gevurah. Gevurah is the power of restraint, or literally translated, it means strength. So practically, what this means is being able to set boundaries and limits in a healthy way, both within ourself, with our Yetzer Hara, which is our negative inclination, and with other people. So the microcosmic power that we're looking at today is Netzach, the power of Netzach within Gevurah, the aspect of Netzach within Gevurah. Now, Netzach is the power of persistence or perseverance. So the practical question that we can ask ourselves today is, in setting healthy boundaries and limitations with myself and with other people in my life, am I persistent and consistent with enforcing those boundaries? And if not, why? So one simple example is a person who is trying to stop using food for stress relief. And this is a really difficult thing to do because it's a very tall order, because not only are we kind of wired spiritually in our animal soul to turn to the physical world for stress relief and pleasure. We're wired psychologically also, because it's a habit that many of us have enforced over a lifetime. And it's really rooted biologically also, that when we're feeling stressed, sweet food turns on those chemicals that counteract the stress chemicals. So it's a normal thing to want to turn to comfort food to relieve stress. So when we're trying to, a lot of people find that they say, I'm not going to do it anymore, and that's the boundary that they set for themselves. And it's not necessarily realistic to do that, to just go cold turkey. So if a person would find, again, this is a very mundane and physical example, that wasn't working for them, that particular boundary or any boundary that they set for themselves, there's two questions you have to ask. You would say, is this boundary not working because it's not actually a healthy or necessary boundary? Is this coming from a place of pathology or not a healthy place? Or B, have I just not found the right strategy yet to enforce this boundary? So again, in the example of the person who's trying not to turn to food for comfort anymore, they might say, you know what, I'm working on myself, but I'm not there yet. So let me set this boundary at a different place. Yes, I still need to turn to something physical to help me manage my stress. I'm working on getting to a place where that's not the case, but I'm not there. So what I'll do instead of eating a box of cookies is I will turn to a diet soda in order to hit that sweet spot and feel like I'm treating myself. Because even though diet soda is not the healthiest thing in the world, it's going to hit that sweet spot without all of the carbs and sugars and calories. So that's just one example, and it's an extremely physical and mundane example again. We're really supposed to be looking at where all of these midas, all of these energies fall out in our relationship with the physical world, in our relationship with God, our service of God, and in our relationships with other people. So again, this example of the food is just one tiny example, but the main question to be asking yourself on this day of Netzach She'beGevurah is, am I persistent and consistent in the healthy boundaries that I set for myself and for other people in my life? And if not, why? Do I need to reevaluate the boundaries themselves, or do I need to just change my strategy in enforcing them? Have a great day.